There's a narrative I have noticed recently among New York Giants fans that Giants fans want their team to fire their head coach, Pat Shurmur. And to me, I go, no way. Like, you're an idiot. I think that New York sports fans are historically very impatient. I understand there's a good argument to be made if you want to. You say, well, the Giants are 2-9, and they went 5-11 last year. And Pat Shermer, is he the guy? Is he great? I don't know. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, our quarterback, Daniel Jones, is struggling. And to that, I would strongly counter that and say, well, Daniel Jones is a rookie quarterback. Pretty much all rookie quarterbacks struggle at first. I literally made a video at the beginning of the year saying Daniel Jones has a lot of potential. It's going to take him time to figure things out. And I know a lot of Giants fans are going to comment, there's other problems, I think, honestly, figure out the offensive line. You're mediocre right now on the offensive line. Build a defensive line. Give your quarterback time to progress. That's a winning football team. Just give it time. Have a little bit of patience. In my opinion, you give Pat Shermer at least one more year. He drafted his quarterback. His quarterback is taking time and developing. Just relax. You're so impatient in New York, and I don't blame you. You want to win games. I understand. I think in New York, you got to give it a little bit of time. Remember last year, the Giants went 5-11. They had an old quarterback, Eli Manning. They had a really bad offensive line who was terrible. They had all kinds of problems. Odell Beckham Jr. was making noise. There's a bunch of drama around the Giants last year. It's just going to take time to build a culture and change things. Now, one thing that drives me nuts, a lot of anti-Pat Shermer people say that, well, look at his career coaching record. He's 17-43 all-time as a head coach. And oh man, I get it. A lot of Browns fans and people chiming in and saying that as well. Look at the past with Pat Shermer. He did really well as the offensive coordinator for the St. Louis Rams at the time in the past. That led him to take a job as a Cleveland Browns head coach. If you're listening to the show and you didn't know where he coached before, that should be a red flag. Oh, he's had a bad coaching career so far. He was a coach of the Browns? Oh, that explains everything. It does. He coached for a bad organization. He coached there for 2 years. His first year, he went 4-12. His second year, he went 5-11. He actually got better his second year. The Browns are a terrible organization, and here's the kicker to me. This is what's really, really important. These are the quarterbacks Pat Shermer worked with in Cleveland. He worked with Colt McCoy, Seneca Wallace, a longtime Seattle Seahawks backup, and a 35-year-old washed-up Jake Delhomme, who was never that great. He took his team to a Super Bowl one time, but Jake Delhomme was not a great quarterback, and he was old. He started a lot of games. He had 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Jake Delhomme was a mess. In my opinion, Pat Shermer's a good coach. Look what he did with the Vikings. With the Vikings and a good team, he made Case Keenum, by the way, not a great quarterback. He got benched in favor of Dwayne Haskins this year. Case Keenum. He made Case Keenum look good and led them to an NFC championship game. I don't know. I think Pat Shermer can coach. Now, you can argue if you want. I can kind of see this. If you say, well, Pat Shermer's made to be an offensive coordinator. He's not made to be a head coach. Okay, fair enough. I think, honestly, you have an argument there. I would give it one more year. Let's find out. If Pat Shermer makes progress next year with the Giants, I think you keep him. I think next year, you can't have him draft a quarterback and then get rid of him after one season. That doesn't make sense to me. He drafted his guy. Give him time to develop his guy. I think he just have some patience. Look at teams like the Ravens historically have been patient. It worked out. The Pittsburgh Steelers historically have been patient. A lot of people wanted to fire Bill Cowher years into his contract. They're like, this guy can't win. He's terrible. Bill Cowher won a Super Bowl in the end. Give a coach time. Be a little bit patient. I think it pays off. I really strongly believe it's too early to move on from Pat Shermer. I just don't understand. You can't judge him. You can't judge Pat Shermer on his overall coaching record. He failed in Cleveland. Bill Belichick at one point failed in Cleveland. Anybody fail? Almost everybody who coaches in Cleveland fails. I think it's a different situation. The Cleveland Browns to the New York Giants. They're very different scenarios, and I don't think you can judge Pat Shermer on his past in Cleveland. Now, the Giants have a terrible record. Here's the positive in that. The Giants are probably going to have a top 5 pick in next year's NFL draft, maybe even a top 3 pick. That's phenomenal. You know how good a move that is? That allows them to draft probably, hopefully, Chase Young, the defensive end out of Ohio State. That'd be amazing. That'd be phenomenal. The other teams at the top are going to have to draft quarterbacks. The Giants are blessed. They have their quarterback situation figured out. They don't need to draft a quarterback. They can focus on, hey, we got to build our offensive line, and our defensive line. Right now, their offensive line is not terrible. They're also not great. I think they could really use another player or two. They're mediocre, in my opinion. If I'm the general manager of the Giants, here's what I would do. I know I'm not, but my philosophy is build your offensive line. Well, get a quarterback and build your offensive line and your defensive line. Look at what the 49ers have done. Over and over again, they drafted defensive linemen. They built a team. A defensive line can make a defense look really good, really fast. An offensive line can make a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, who's not special, win games with the Indianapolis Colts. If I'm the Giants for the next 3 or 4 years, I draft really boring draft picks. CeeDee Lamb's out there. This star's out there. That star's out there. Draft offensive linemen. I know Dave Gettleman already picked Saquon Barkley instead of Quentin Nelson. We've seen a history. Maybe they won't do that. But if I'm the Giants, I say, look, you got a great running back, Saquon Barkley. You got a good quarterback who I think is growing and just needs time, Daniel Jones. Now support them. Get a better offensive line. Keep drafting offensive linemen. And then draft defensive linemen. If the Giants can draft Chase Young and then follow it up the next year with another defensive lineman, oh my gosh, that's scary. That's horrifying. Chase Young, or if you can sign somebody in free, go get Eric Armstead in free agency. Do something, right? If the Giants can build their defensive line and build their offensive line, that's the key to them winning. I think firing Pat Shurmur now is just too early. I wouldn't do it. He got his quarterback, give him one more year. And I think if you give him one more year, special things can happen. I know it's messy this year. They're 2-9. They're not having a good year. There are a lot of reasons for Giants fans to be frustrated watching games. I get it. But I think as an organization, you got to go, okay, it's not going well. Let's just be patient a little bit. Give it one more year for Pat Shurmur to try to figure things out and make some progress as the head coach of the New York Giants.